Here we are again at How's Your ePresence. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you here today. I am Mark Galvin, your host, and this show is produced by ePresence. This is a really cool day. We are on the beginning of February, and there's this awesome thing that happens on the beginning of February, and is the beginning of the Chinese New Year. So on today, the Chinese zodiac controls the year of whatever animal, and this is the year of the tiger. Here's what's interesting. The Jade Emperor decided the zodiac by having a race on his birthday of these different animals. And so the zodiac was decided by the results of that race. How about that? The tiger did not come in first. I'm really surprised by that, quite frankly. But all that doesn't matter. All you need to know is that it is the year of the tiger. And if you go to Google today, this is actually really cool. Go to Google right when you land on the home screen, click the little icon, and they have this beautiful, you know how they do the artist rendering of whatever is the day. If you click that, the very next page has fireworks and has an image of a tiger pop up on the screen. It's pretty cool. So happy Chinese New Year. So thanks for being here on How's Your ePresence. This is the show where we try to help you do something a little better, to market your business better, maybe to understand something in the marketing world. Specifically, we like to stick in the digital space. We don't always, but we always like to try to help you in that digital space. If you want to see all the shows that we've done before, go check out our YouTube channel. We've got lots of great content there. And of course, we drop all of our shows on the podcast channel as well. So if you're subscribed there and you're listening to this, you hear me talking about the Chinese New Year and we're in March, well, sorry about that. The content's still great for you. You should make sure you continue to stay tuned. If you've got a question for our guest today, please drop it right there in the chat box. No matter where you are, you can drop in a note. We will see it pop up on our screen and we can ask our guest. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about something really interesting. We've had SEO guests on our show before. This is the first time we have somebody coming and talking about the specific term domain authority. What is domain authority? We'll get into that. So stick around and you'll hear more about domain authority and how you get that authority. Jon Lightfoot is our guest today, and he is with Strategic SEO Solutions. Jon is the founder and CEO of that organization. He's got 20 years of marketing experience and brand side / agency side experience. So this is someone who really understands how to help companies build a successful brand, especially on digital. He's worked with software as a solution brands. He's worked with B2B enterprise firms and many Fortune 500 companies. So I will guarantee you he's got great experience and you're going to want to hear what he has to say. It's going to be terrific. He's also on the customer experience advisory board at the University of California in Irvine. So great guy with lots of super experience. If you have a question, just a reminder, go ahead and pop it on whatever channel you're on. Drop the question right there in the chat box, and we'll be sure to see if we can stump Jon with your question. Well, I think that's enough of the general housekeeping. Let's see if we can find Jon out there. Jon, are you there? There he is. Welcome, Jon. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Yes, doing well. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Glad you are here. Where are you coming to us from? What part of the world?
Yes, I'm in California, Southern California in Irvine.
Gotcha. Well, of course, if you're on the board there at the University of California in Irvine, I guess we probably gave that away, didn't we? So what is your favorite thing about your neighborhood, so to speak, or the region you live? What do you like the most about it?
Well, I think it's just, proximity to beach and mountains, having an opportunity to ski and well, feasibly and potentially be at the ocean in the same day to me it's wonderful.
That is pretty cool. So skiing, where do you go skiing?
Well, I mean, Big Bear's is an option. It's a little bit more of a hike for me because I'm in the southern segment of California. But there's Mammoth, and there's just Big Bear in different places that I like to go with more closer proximity. But California has great skiing. It's just Tahoe has great skiing too.
It is unbelievable. For those of you who are not that familiar with California, you can at that little corner of the state, if you look at the state on the map, and there's the right side of the state as you look at a map, are those two straight lines. Right at that corner is this Lake Tahoe, and one side's Nevada, one side is California, and it's absolutely beautiful up there. And it is not well, it's better from the Bay Area. You have a little bit of a hike from
Yeah.
Southern California, but that's also, I mean, that is such a beautiful state. Well, let's get into the fun stuff here. So, Jon, tell me, why do you do what you do? Well, what do you do and why do you do it? I always get that backwards for some reason, but answer that question.
Yeah, great. No, it's a great question. It's for me, what I do is SEO, search engine optimization.
Gotcha.
I live, sleep, eat, and breathe SEO, and I have for quite a long time. The reason why I do it, it's not about budget. I think if I crystallized it down, it's because it's not about budget. I've worked within integrated strategies, traditional marketing, digital marketing, every type of marketing for a very long time. And there's just so many segments that, performance can, to a degree, be dotted back to how deep are your pockets? How much money do you have to spend? But SEO is not that. It's really more about methodology. It's about strategy. It's about consistency. And all of that to say, it allows every brand to compete with one another independent of actual spend. I've been in SEO for 17 years, and I love it. It's always evolving. It's always changing. And I love the fact that there's constant learning. And at the end of the day, it's that prudent strategy that really helps brands outrank, outperform. And to me, I have passion in that space.
That is so cool. I do find it very intriguing. We didn't talk about this before the show started, that SEO is an everyman sport, basically, is what you've shared, right? It's not, you can succeed on SEO even with a smaller budget. And it sounds like the impetus for you to say that is if you've got someone who's managing your SEO correctly, you can, in theory, compete with somebody larger. Is that an accurate statement?
It's very accurate. It's very accurate. Paid initiatives are fantastic in their own right. They have their own purpose and can be very, very effective on an ROI segmentation. But when you have exhausted your spend, you go dark. You're literally dark. You're devoid of exposure at that point. And with SEO, the notion herein is that when you've garnered, solid rankings, your impression share goes up, your visibility goes up, and that provides mileage. I mean, how often have any of us really performed a search, and then one of the results you see that, that result was initially, published back in 2018, 2019, 2020, right? Years later, it's still living on, still providing value. And there is not one additional penny per click that people, people who are finding it and engaging with that type of result. So it's a more of a long-term strategy. Some people liken paid search to kind of the sprint, and SEO is more the marathon. I agree with that, but it provides long-term value, devoid of just how much your monthly budget is.
Very interesting. Well, it's very good. I would like to ask you about something that did come up pre-show, and that's something called domain authority. What is domain authority?
Well, I often these days say, building authority builds brands. And the reason I say that is because domain authority is, I think, again, if you crystallize what that really means down to its epicenter, it can be likened to trust. It's your level of trust. It's a level of trust that maybe, Google would impart upon the website as a whole. And if you think about Google, for sake of argument, the other search engines as well, but if we focus on Google for a moment, there's so many new websites every single day. There's so many websites all vying for the same positions and the same keywords in the same industry. How can they discern who best to rank, or how do you outrank those who are already in that space? A huge segmentation, not all of it, but a big part of it these days really comes down to trust. And that is where domain authority comes in.
Gotcha. This is interesting. So, of course, every business wants to have domain authority. Every business wants to be, we all heard this phrase, they all want to be on page one. Google to be continued to be recognized. Let me rephrase that. Google wants to be recognized as the very best search engine in the world. To continue to have that that badge, if you will, they need to provide great search results. And so they're constantly looking at ways that they can make sure they're putting the very best in front of whoever's doing that search. And the search in Atlanta will be different than the search in Irvine, right? The people here are looking for something different. I do not want to look up a pizza place here in Atlanta and end up finding pizza places in Irvine, as an example. So Google's got to keep all that in mind. And I want to have the good pizza place show up high on search results. So all this plays into that domain authority. All right, great. Let's say my pizza really sucks. I have a pizza place. Honestly, my pizza's not great. But for some reason, I've got you working for me on my SEO. Is it possible that Google could say, hey, your pizza's not so great, we're going to push you down on search results? Does that happen?
It does. It does. I would say domain authority is a fair segment of the discernment around your rankings. It is certainly not the only.
Okay.
Google, you're speaking to more kind of local service level searches, and
sure,
that's a full different algo kind of paradigm. That does fold into a bevy of other elements, including what you're speaking to, which is reviews. And reviews are critical. We have to manage our reviews. It's so important. It's so important. In fact, having bad, prolifically negative reviews in a variety of platforms, that in itself will diminish your authority and trust.
Right.
I think the DA, this notion of domain authority, where it really is prevalent is in Google discerning. Do you have thought leadership? Do you have value to those that would be searching for your services or value props or solutions? And every company will tell Google, yes, we do, and we're the best at what we do. But they have to try and dig a little deeper than that. Obviously, on-page SEO, that technical segmentation, that's a completely additional discussion, but that's critical as well. But if you kind of look at that and say, well, hey, we are algorithmically in line. We're meeting our core web vitals, our page experience. Our website is loading fast. We have a low spam score, no toxicity. We're meeting all the critical algos. Okay, what's next? So now we have a strong foundation from which to build. Well, a good part of that next step and strategy is, well, how do you rank today with your domain authority? We could talk a little bit about that. And what do we need to think about in order to propel that domain authority? And so that's, I just want to add one bolt-on segment to this.
Okay.
When we talk about domain authority, or we might talk about domain rating, similar things, it is something that the search engines are going to be mindful of. They're going to notice this. It's going to have an effect on your search engine rankings. But the other side of the coin is, well, what about the consumers? Do they ever know what your domain authority is? Likely not. Likely not. They probably are not using tools and analysis to decide before they make a purchase or a lead generation inquiry, what is your domain authority? But however, they do know in an ancillary way, which means if you have strong domain authority and that propels your rankings within search, and you now are propagating into the first page, and you're moving up, you're in the top 3, and this conveys trust on a whole nother level. And so DA is that authority. Well, you can be sure you're communicating authority to your targeted demographic. If you're in the first, second, or third position of Google, that's authoritative. So it does have a dotted line back to the consumer as well.
Very interesting. All right. So we're going to get into more on how the domain authority works. I am really curious how you can damage domain authority. So before we get into measurement piece, you mentioned a few things that can help get you there, but if the algo thing, like you said, the algorithm likes certain things, and you kind of listed off. So what were those quick things and it started with speed of the website
Yeah.
and so on. What are those triggers?
Yeah, there's a few. There's actually a fair many, but some of the big ones today would be, you know, your core web vitals, your page experience, the performance of the website as a whole, how quickly it renders, the speed of the site, for example, and you know, and then yes, spam algorithms are prolific. There was, I think, 4 of the last 6 updates had some segmentation to spam. And so making sure that the website is has a low spam score, does not have toxicity bolted back to it. Those are and this really supports your question, which is how can you damage domain authority? That in itself is something that has to be very deeply assessed, because building authority is the effort of garnering links pointing back to your website from trusted sources. And there are a lot of caveats to what trust looks like when you're discerning whether those links are going to build domain authority for you as opposed to hurt you.
This is a very interesting thing because everybody talks about backlinks. You want backlinks. That's a good thing. But I never thought about that. If your backlinks are coming from a site that's crawling with spam problems, right? That's probably not going to help me. In fact, that could hurt me that I'm getting linked from that site. Isn't that interesting? I have not thought about that. Well, cool. All right. So great. We've really established what domain authority is. How do we figure out what our domain authority looks like?
So it's interesting because domain authority is actually conveyed in different ways, but it's simple in nature, which is that the hard part has already been done for us by the likes of, let's say, Moz. Right? Moz kind of created that algo that determined what is domain authority. You'll hear people refer to it as DA. That's coming out of Moz. Then you have
Moz is only because I misspelled it, folks. Am I saying this? I'm interrupting John. I'm sorry, John. But it's M-O-Z. M-O-Z. And so if I go and search M-O-Z, I'll find it, right, John?
Absolutely, yeah. They're a very authoritative site and tool that is commonly used by SEOs. And then you have Ahrefs, and Ahrefs has their own algo, that which they call the DR, the domain rating. And so whether you're looking at the DA or the DR, they're similar. For those who harness the platform SEMrush, you know, SEMrush, SEMrush, they have their own proprietary algo as well, which is the AS, the authority score. But most of the time, everybody narrows in on your DA, your domain authority. And, you know, Moz has, like, for example, a Chrome extension that you can plug in for free. And you can monitor your site and everybody else's site to easily, to see what their DA is.
I did not know this. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm running off as soon as we hang up here, and I'm going to go check that out. So Moz has a plugin that'll tell me how my website's doing. So I've got somebody working on my SEO, obviously. I could go in and use this plugin and call them and say, hey, I'm going down, right? In theory.
That's correct. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, actually, if you monitor it, yes. In other words, historicals, to get the sense of the trend line, there's other tools, but it'll give you a pulse. And if you were to monitor that pulse and write it down and check once a week or once a month, or, you know, your SEO team should be providing that to you regularly, you'll have this understanding of what does that velocity look like? Are you moving in a northern trajectory with consistency? Is there truncation happening to your DA? But you can kind of rest assured one thing. If your domain authority is going down, you're going to see that ripple effect through your keywords and your rankings within search. And if your domain authority is going up, there's a strong likelihood you're going to see that just as well. It's very powerful.
You said something that I think that I want to follow up on, and it is that the Moz plugin is going to give me a pulse. I can check it and see where I am. But if I want something that'll give me some history, I need to go someplace else. If so, where?
Yeah. So website SEOchecker.com is actually A great tool. That tool allows you to see your historicals, and they give you a plethora of other data too surrounding domain authority. But they have, they have what's called the domain authority history tool, and that history tool can give you that historical data where you can really see that dotted line where you have been, where you are today, and what's happening within that. And of course, what you want is consistency. It was recently John Mueller of Google, they asked him, what's the secret to SEO? And that's a tough question to answer, but he did a brilliant job, because he literally said, the secret is consistency. And far too often do you see everybody rush in one direction to try and meet maybe one metric or one algorithm, or everybody's heard, right? We need content for SEO. We need, they rush and they put up several blogs for a while, and then they kind of back off. Well, I've ticked that box. Or, we need links. And they do that for a month or two or three, and then they back off. This makes kind of a needle on the record, sort of an analytical diagram where we see needles moving at velocity, but then falling just as fast. That really doesn't help us. So what we want is consistency in a particular trajectory. That doesn't mean it's going to always be north. Right. Nothing ever just goes straight up nor straight down. But we want to see, if we were to draw a trend line, that there is a methodology to all of this that's building upon itself. And so, yes, having historicals is important.
So you just took the wind out of my sails. I'm thinking there's like a silver bullet. Actually, I'm not. But so the plan is, right, if you're going to strategically build a strategy to increase your domain authority, the reality pill is this: it needs to be consistent. So it's not going to be just, okay, let's call John and he's going to do my SEO. It's going to be John's going to manage SEO, but I've got to continue to build good quality content on the website, right?
Yes. Well, yes, you're right. There's a consistency to the ecosystem. The ecosystem meaning part of it is content, part of it is technicals and on-site, just health, and part of it is the off-site analysis, that domain authority, and there has to be consistency to it. Far too often, just kind of keeping it focused in the DA spectrum. Far too often, I'll talk with companies, or I'll talk with SEOs, and what's the strategy, right? What's the game plan for the building of the domain authority? And it's funny, because often you'll hear different numbers. So I'm building 20 links a month, or I'm building 15 or 30 links a month, every month, because 5 are nurturing this keyword and 5 are nurturing that URL. And then you watch it unfold. And what you'll see is the first of the month comes, there's 15, 20, 30 links built, and then nothing happens for the rest of the month. And then the first of the month, we better scramble to get another 15, 30 links, that kind of thing. This is not, the approach needs to be more organic than that. Like, it literally needs to be ongoing, regular outreach, having editorial discussions, getting content placed, or, I spend a lot of time researching articles that are already ranking. They're already thematically, contextually, representative of, say, a company that I'm working on their SEO, and I'm trying to get them links. So, when I find the content that's already trusted, it's already ranked, it's already indexed, and it's thematically related, I'll reach out and ask them about, obtaining a link inside the content that already exists. So sometimes you can share new content. Sometimes you can just get into the narrative by finding that. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, so we do this podcast, and I'm allegedly helping everybody else, but it's really all about me. So I got a me question, if I can, John. So
of course.
We do these podcasts, and we do them twice a week. And we're dropping us podcasts. We drop them as the video. So this is streaming as we speak. And then we always convert each of these shows into a blog where we write down some good highlights. We'll pull a nugget or two from what you say today, and we'll put that in a blog. And we do this with all of our guests. And so we're dropping that all the time. And we ask our guests, hey, we're going to drop this. If you would, on your website, if you could say, hey, go check out that. And hopefully you've got good domain authority and you're referring to our website. But we're doing this all the time. From what you're saying, that's a good thing. but I also need to start off the month and I should say, all right, here are the topic links that we need to focus on this month and really build those into each blog. For a social media agency, what would you say would be, what would those links look like? How should we look at building those into our blogs?
Yeah, so I would say this, there has to be this overarching, ecosystem. There
Right.
needs to be a dotted line within the narrative. And so what I mean by that is simply that what you're doing on your website should have a clean connectivity to what you're saying and doing within YouTube, let's say, for sake of argument.
Gotcha.
And when you move into your social sphere, you should be, propagating and kind of cross-pollinating the keywords and the links that you're speaking to within your captions. And the same could be true, frankly, for the paid space as well. You could be leveraging those same keywords in your paid ecosystem. So this is why I call it an ecosystem. It has to kind of go around the bend. If you're saying one thing on your website and you're trying to support those keywords and those links there, but you have a completely different narrative in your social sphere and maybe something completely different even in your PR and what you're utilizing within the press or within press release syndication, then we're sending different messages out and everything then kind of becomes diluted. What we want to have is cohesion in our content, cohesion in our messaging strategy, cohesion in the way that we're supporting keywords, and cohesion in the links that we're supporting. And when I think about links, I really back it into that kind of, take a keyword that's critical to your organization and bolt that back to a landing page that's critical to support that keyword. The first step is finding out, if you look at your website, which pages rank today and what keywords do those pages rank for? And are those even the right keywords? If they are, fantastic. You support those keywords dotting back to that page. And if they're not, now you have to look at actually shifting the on-page content and supporting it with the right keywords. So sometimes it's like messy hair. The first thing you have to do is comb it so everything's in alignment, and then you can begin supporting it.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So for anyone, for company XYZ, doesn't really matter. They need to step back and say, this is our keywords. The keywords in this case would be, these are the words that people are going to use to find us, right? That's a good example of a keyword. Great. So if someone's going to use the word social media management to find our company, or if it's an HVAC company, they're going to type in air conditioning. They're going to type in heater, heating, winter heating, whatever, right? They got to figure out what those words are and then have a page that complements those words. But then as they do blogs, they're using that language again and again and again and again, and they're dropping it 2 times a week. That would be a good SEO strategy. And then maybe spending some money on those words through Google. Is that kind of a good summary, or did I miss some key components there?
Well, it's a good summary. The only caveats I would say is being cautious of using the same keywords on internal landing pages too often in blogs, because now you start to build cannibalization and they're competing against each other. The other segmentation is once you discern which keywords. So I always look at it as the 80-20 rule. There's 80% of the value coming to your website out of anywhere, really. It can usually bolt back to 20% of the keywords. So it's understanding which of those keywords are most transactional, are driving the most lead gen, those sorts of things. Once we understand those keywords, right, it's what you said, which is ensuring that there is a page that supports them and also supporting them with some content. But the other side of it too is making sure that from an off-site perspective, people are speaking about those pages and anchoring to them with those same keywords. Google, if you do it right, they hear you. They see you, they crawl you, and they understand what you're trying to communicate. And then that's where that ends. They heard and they understood you, or they saw and they understood you. It's when other people speak about you in the same way that you are that they begin to care. That's where that harmony exists. That's where things come together in concert. Yeah.
Good. So a smart methodology that we should employ is every time we do a blog and we talk to our guests afterwards, and if they do a blog also, that they are, that we've given them, hey, as you do that, will you include these keywords as you refer back to us?
Yeah, and part of it too is looking at your data, like really getting into Google Search Console, getting into Google Analytics, and understanding where are you being propelled currently within your impression share and visibility, and where's that truncation. There's going to be some times where you see yourself falling and you say, wait, we need to dig in here and actually build it back up. So you may want your guests speaking to you using those words so that there's support happening there. You may say, well, actually, we're going to befriend the trend here. These keywords are going north. We're almost to the first page. We want to go push that momentum forward. So you support those keywords too. The important thing here, I'll say it quickly, is just ensuring that there's a soft landing, meaning not just throwing a keyword and then dropping them on your homepage and they don't necessarily, or an internal page that really doesn't support the keyword at all. You need there to be contextual relationship to the word they're using and the page that they land on. CRO is the other side of the coin of SEO, meaning that conversion rate optimization. If somebody lands on a page, there's no contextual relevance, it's not a soft landing, they're going to bounce. Your time on site's going to go down. The bounce rate's going to go up. Interior page views is going to go down. And all of those actually end up being signals to Google that the SEO isn't right. And what you said in the beginning of the show is everything, which is that what's really happening here is Google wants the best experience for the user. What's the best experience? Right. The best experience is the user puts in a keyword or query, a string of keywords, and the results that come up give them the answers that they want. And if they click on those results and leave quickly, they bounce, well, then they didn't get their answer, and Google sees that as a poor experience. So that's why there has to be a soft landing.
Fascinating. This is awesome, Jon. I love everything that you shared, and I thank you for speaking directly to me, but at the same time, it helps give context to what you're sharing. And so that was really cool. Do this. Tell our guests tell our audience, I should say, where you would like them to go to find you.
I just invite everybody to please visit our website, strategicseosolutions.com. If you visit Strategic SEO Solutions, you can reach out. You can even schedule a call directly there through our Calendly, and happy to talk. This isn't about any commitment or otherwise. Really, we love SEO. It's a passion. We're happy to chat about you, where your company's at, what it looks like, and how we can help. And there's really no obligation to have the conversation.
I love it. I love it. Well, I love that you shared great knowledge today. And one of the things that comes up a lot from people I talk to is they just don't understand how it works. And so they feel like they're throwing money at it and nothing's happening. And that is a big challenge whenever you're dealing with anybody that's in that digital marketing space, that, you know what? Yeah, you can throw a lot of money at it and not see any result. We had a guest a while ago that said, if you're not making money on your website, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's a great arbiter. If you're not making money on your website, then you're doing something wrong. And you've given some great tips today on how people can make sure that their SEO is working. Jon, thanks for being here. Great conversation. I love the feedback. And I hope that the weather out in Irvine today is fantastic, which I know it probably is, because it's never, it's bad, 4 days a year out there?
That's about right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful.
My pleasure, Jon. Thanks a lot. And for the rest of you folks, what a great dose of feedback right there. That is unbelievable how Jon was able to drive into those words and how important those words are to drive people to the right part of your website when they land there. I love that part, the soft landing. It's just like you're walking down the street, someone is out in front of a store in Main Street, and they have chocolates, right? And they say, "Hey, would you like to try a chocolate?" And you try it, like, "Oh, that's great." They say, "Go right in. We're selling some of that." And you walk in, you can't find the chocolate spot, right? Well, great. Where do I buy that great chocolate? You got to have somebody standing in the door and say, "No, you're here for the chocolate. Let me show you where that is." That's what you need to make sure that your website is doing. Well, this is good stuff from Jon. I'm so glad he was with us today. Thanks for joining us here on How's Your ePresence. This show is produced by ePresence. We're a full-service social media agency. Our website is ePresence.me. That's ePresence.me because it's all about you. We manage personal and company social media. We also offer consulting and full-service training. We help a lot of teams get onto social and make sure that they are active in the right way. If you're interested in hearing more about some of our social media service, we would encourage you to pop right there on the screen. Look for that. There it is, that link, e-pr.me/listener. If you go there, you'll land on a page, soft landing page, that will let you take advantage of a 5% discount just by being a listener of this show. We love our listeners. We'd love to give you a 5% discount on all of our service just because you are. How's Your ePresence is everywhere. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Plus, you can catch our podcast wherever you are. We'd love for you to subscribe. So there it is. Hit that subscribe button on your screen. That way you get notified when we go live. Also, if you add us to your podcast app, you'll get all of our great shows just automatically downloading to your device. And you can pick up a lot of great content. If you're not sure where that is, go to our website, epresence.me/podcast. So epresence.me/podcast, and you can find all the great places that we're dropping that podcast. Our producer is Morgan Wood. She is our extraordinary team member here at ePresence. We love all the work that she does. Until next time, for my guest, Jon Lightfoot, I'm Mark Galvin. Thank you for joining us here on How's Your ePresence?